Hey there, it's Marlene Hielema from ImageMaven.com. In this video, I'm going to talk about when I shoot RAW files and how I develop them. Now, you know if you followed me for any length of time that I say get it right in the camera and shoot JPEGs. And personally, I do shoot JPEGs 99% of the time, but that's because of the type of photos I take. But there's one kind of photo where you should shoot RAW. Can you guess what it is? If this is your first time here, well, thanks for checking me out. I teach photography, photo editing, a little bit of lighting, and I'm a huge fan of Lumix cameras. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Let's get back to our original question. Here's the clue. You're looking at it. What types of scenes would benefit from shooting in RAW as opposed to JPEG? You got it, landscapes, especially landscapes with a huge dynamic range, a large difference between bright areas and dark areas. Those are the kind of files you want to shoot in RAW so that you can take advantage of all the 12-bit data that a RAW file gives you. Okay, let's go ahead and edit the RAW file as well as the JPEG that was processed in the camera. On the left we have the JPEG and on the right we have the RAW file. Let's start with the JPEG. I'm using Lightroom for this edit. And what I'm going to do is go into the Develop tab, and just to keep things quick and simple, I'm just going to use the Auto Tone selection, and I'm going to add a little bit of vibrance to juice up some of the color in the foreground. And I'm going to put on my highlight clipping warning indicator as well as the shadow so that you can see which areas are blown out or lacking information. So we have most of the highlight detail retained in the clouds, just a little bit of it is blown out. So you could lower your highlights even more, and that's a good indicator. Let's do a before and after of that. So that's as it came out of the camera on the left, and the right is the edits that we've made. So we've brightened things up a little bit. Might even want to brighten up a bit more in the saturation as well. And you can see that it gives a fairly pleasing result. Okay, now let's edit the RAW file. Okay, head over to the Develop module, hit the Auto button, and you can see that we still have some detail missing in the shadows. Because I have the shadow clipping warning on, and that's what is indicated by this blue area. I can take that off. And let's open up our shadows a bit more. And let's add some vibrance to this image. And that really juices up the color quite nicely. Okay, let's compare the RAW and the JPEG. So the RAW is on the left here and the JPEG's on the right. And I mean, color, you know, I could probably get the color exactly on these. I'm more looking at the detail. So if I'm looking in the detail in the back here in the mountains, the RAW file does appear to be slightly sharper because the sharpness was already baked into the JPEG. So I could sharpen again in Photoshop or in Lightroom when I export these. Keep in mind these are not exported files. They're still just edited only. It looks to me like I have a little bit of banding in the sky of the JPEG. You can see here sort of in the just above the mountain here that there's more of a harsh line than there is on the RAW image. So there's not as much tonal difference, like there's not as much gradation or sort of subtleties in the JPEG file. And that is mostly apparent in the highlights so far. Let's have a look at the trees in the foreground. Again, a little crisper in the RAW file. So that's something to keep of note too. Now the sharpness in when you're editing RAW files, it's the Details tab, and there are some defaults set up for that, and you can change that as well. If you find that your RAW files are coming out too sharp, you can tone that down. All right, so that's what editing in Lightroom looks like. Now let's move over to Luminar. All right, let's edit these files in Luminar 4, which is what you're looking at right now. And I'll start again with the JPEG, and I'm going to go right into my favorite tab of tools, which are the Enhance tools, and I just love the AI accent tool. It is one of my favorites in Luminar, and I pretty much use it on every image as a starting point. So I'm going to slide that up to the right. And it also has an AI Sky Enhance slider, and I can move that over too. Now you can do these extreme and see what happens, and then pull back. Now, if your image doesn't have a sky in it, you will not be able to activate the AI Sky Enhancer slider. So let's go somewhere around there, and I can click this little eyeball icon and do a before and after, or I can do a split screen before and after as well. Okay, now I'm going to go into the color, and I'm going to add vibrance just like I did in Lightroom. So I'll juice up some of those colors, especially the reds and the yellows and the oranges down below. Before and after. And you can also put on the highlight and clipping warning indicators. And I have a little bit of blown out highlights on the mountainside over here. I think I will just sacrifice those. And I have a small bit in the bottom corner here of shadow clipping, and it's really small. You probably can't even see it. So I'll just ignore that as well. I can live with that. Now, one thing that I did notice is that I'm kind of getting some magenta coloring in the clouds here at the top, and that I'm not a fan of. And notice, just like in Lightroom, I'm getting an abrupt change in the tonality in the clouds here. I'm getting a line. It's losing sort of the fine-tuned gradation. So I think I'll go back into my AI Enhance and just pull down the Sky Enhancer, and might even pull down the AI accent a bit as well. I'll see that maybe I push my vibrance up a bit too high, but let's just leave it somewhere like that. Let's do before and after. Okay, now let's move over to the raw file. AI accent on the raw file. And you can see that I can push it quite a bit farther and not have the problem with the banding. However, I do still have blown out highlights. So let's slide the Sky Enhancer over first. It gets rid of most of those. And if I want to fine tune those, I can pull down the highlights as well, just like in Lightroom. So just pull those down. And I think I will just sacrifice these like I did before. I mean, the sun is shining on that part of the mountain. Turn that off. So let's do a before and after. Okay, we've really brightened up the shadow areas of the trees. I think I'm going to go back to the enhance and just boost that maybe a little bit. It's not too bad. Let's go to the color and juice up the vibrance like I did with the JPEG. And let's try that one out. Before and after. Now I have no idea what my Lightroom file looked like. I'm just kind of taking each image on its own. But yeah, I think that looks great. We've got a nice bold sky in this shot. I can do a side by side so you can see the sky better. I mean, look at how much we pulled out of those highlights in that sky. It's one thing I do love about Luminar. It really gives great skies. Okay, let's just leave those edits the way they are, and let's compare all four versions, the JPEGs and the RAWs. Lightroom JPEG edit, Lightroom RAW edit, Luminar JPEG edit, Luminar RAW edit. Let's put them side by side. Here's the Lightroom JPEG and RAW. And here's the Luminar JPEG and RAW. And here's all four together. Which one is your favorite? The differences between capturing RAW files and JPEGs may not be readily apparent when you're first starting out, But one thing's for sure, you'll get smoother gradations in your skies, in the clouds, and you'll notice subtleties that you may not be able to capture if you shoot JPEGs only, especially if it's a sunny day and you have shadow areas and highlight areas where a huge tonal range difference. So you have a huge difference between the bright areas and the deep shadows. So keep that in mind. So when you're starting out, when you're shooting landscapes, set your camera to JPEG plus RAW and you can do these edits for yourself and compare. As far as software goes, I'm using Luminar and Lightroom. And Lightroom is available from Adobe. They have an Adobe photography plan and it's $10 US per month. And Luminar is available for about $69 and it's a one-off price, so you don't have monthly fees. But they do upgrade the software about once a year. They have a major upgrade and those are usually paid upgrades, and you can get them for as low as $39 US for the upgrades. So I suggest you download the 30-day trials of each of the softwares and compare and see which one you like the best. If you do decide to purchase Luminar, I have a coupon code. It's ImageMaven, and I have a link in the video description below that you can click on. And if you like to purchase after testing it out, please use my coupon code and you'll get $10 US off. Thanks for watching. It's Marlene Hielema from ImageMaven.com. See you soon.